morning.
Good morning.
So, I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about. And I think that I didn't really even know the name of the talk, but it's the little unity that could. I think that just kind of fits it all together. So after this, we will circle up and we'll have our vision meeting. And then at 1:00, we'll play hot potato for Laughter Club. And that's always a lot of fun. Yeah, that's what we do. So that's fun. Y'all. So talking about what we're going to talk about. This past last Sunday, I could probably do a whole talk on just Ed's talk. That was so good, and that's part of just this awesome unfolding that I am seeing happen with our little Unity church that could. So back in, I created a little timeline this morning of just a small amount of all of the synchronicities and the things that seem to be kind of like leading to here. And I feel like we're just barely getting started with all of the good that can come from the little unity that could. And so back in 2004, our little sister, Cassie, she wasn't well, and she actually had a seizure. She had a grand mal seizure, and we just didn't know what to do. We're trying to figure this out. It seemed to us like it's more than like the physical. There's a spiritual component to what's going on with her, and that she needed healing. And we knew Janet Lauer over here at Divine Massage, and she directed us. She goes, well, have you gone to the Unity Church? And we're like, no, what's the Unity Church? And she said, well, they meet on Sundays at 11. So my mom and I just popped in here one Sunday at 11 back in 2004. And that's been almost 18 years ago now. I can't believe we've been coming in those doors for 18 years now. That's amazing. So we came here. The room it wasn't this. It was all dark paneling. So you walked in, it was really dark. And I think that they weren't used to new people, because everybody kind of just turned and it's like looked at us like, do y'all know them? No, I don't know them. So we're there, we sat, and I remember when we did the tithes and offerings, we said, divine love through me. And my mom's like, that's different. I'm like, I know, that's different. I like it. It's different. It's different. Okay. And so there was a healer here. So that's why we came here. There was going to be a healer, and we wanted to talk to him about my sister, your daughter. We talked to him after church. I remember he was in this kitchen, and there was a table, and we sat down with him, and we just kind of explained what was going on with my sister. And he said he'd pray for us and do whatever it was that he did. He offered that. We received it. Don't know his name, don't know who he was, don't know what he did, but it did seem to help. So we didn't come back for years and years. It just we came in, we popped in, it just planted that little seed, and we didn't come back. But, full circle, almost 20 years later, here we are. Here I am. How'd that happen? How did that happen? So just little breadcrumbs, just little things along the way. And so that was 2004. And then back in 2009, I went to some conference thing through Janet Lauer, it was kind of a girls' weekend, and while I was there, I heard about this thing called What If Up. I'm like, well, what's that? She said, well, it's this like brainstorm game that you can play, and you just think up thoughts instead of down thoughts. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Little seed, just like a little seed back in 2009, planted. Boop. And then I happened upon a Joe Vitale video, and he kind of went more into what if up was. Like, oh, okay. He says you're always doing it. You're always either going up. You're always saying what if, but we're trained to go, oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if they laugh at me? What if it's terrible? What if I fall down? What if it's the worst day ever? But we can switch that and just go up with it, just as easy, and get ourselves going into that momentum. So, flash forward, 2011, somehow we just popped back in here. I woke up one morning, sat straight up in bed, and I had to be at the Unity Church. I had to be here. I have to go to the Unity Church. I was under a compulsion to act, a volition. My body was in motion, and I'm like, hey, where are we going? And I come in here, and it was the day they were going to shut the doors to the Unity Church. They were down to like 2 or 3 board members, and 2 of them were related, and you're not supposed to have that, and they were going to close. There was no money coming in. There were no people coming in. It was just about to close. And they needed a board member. I'm like, okay, I'll be your board member. And so it reignited somehow. It just enough fanning of the flames to get it going again, to get it going down the road. And so I created, for myself, back in around 2011, a little Facebook group, because I wanted to be able to kind of be connected with the people that I knew that went to Unity. So I didn't want to call it Unity of Brazosport. I call it Friends of Unity of Brazosport. That way, it's not Unity of Brazosport. It's just the Friends of Unity of Brazosport. So slowly, that kind of got adapted and adopted into being the church's Facebook group, the official Facebook group. I didn't know I was creating a Facebook group for church. Like, if I had thought about it in that way, I wouldn't have done it. It would have been way too big for me to do, for little me to do. But I look back, and that's back when the post started beginning. So that's when we had that little seed planted. And that has grown now to over 180 members of that little Facebook group in our community. So, and it's friends of, that means like you don't have to be, it was just so perfectly named. I don't really name it. That's just what it got named. And you don't have to be a member. You can just be like me, just kind of float it in one day to get what you needed and float it out. And that's okay. That's like serving our community. So I remember way back then, I had a vision. I was sitting either there or there. I don't know. I was sitting by Kerry Wallen, and I just saw this place as being, one day, it wouldn't be like it was. It would be more of a hub for this community, this bigger community, to be able to be kind of like a point of connection. And so here we are. My gosh, like all these years later, that's 10 years. That was a 10-year-old vision. Well, that may have happened more in like 2013, 2015, because I was still kind of popping in, and then I would kind of leave, and I'd come back, and then I would just, it's just the way it was. We always had this place to come back and get centered and get connected. And so that was really awesome. So here we go. Like this past September, I had some garage sale items, and I knew the church was having garage sales. So I just called Charlotte. I was like, hey, do y'all need any garage sale items? She's like, well, maybe. She's like, I'm not so sure this church is going to be able to be around. And I feel like Spirit just wants this to be here. And so makes a way for that to happen. And at the same time, that little what if up thing that I had found out about back in 2009 that a lady just happened to mention to me at a conference in Austin. Well, that started from New Thought churches and spirit groups. And they were launching a What If Up Club, which has been a great way to just expand our possibilities and serve the community and just whatever it is that they're inspired to do. So I just thought that was really awesome. And just watching all of these little breadcrumbs connect over time, and the new people that are coming in, and the talents that they have, and the messages that they have, and the experiences that they have, and the connections that are being made, and the community that is being brought together. It's been really awesome to just stand back and kind of see all of this unfold, and all of us to be a part of this, and we're just getting started. So, and then, Charlotte, you had that, you just felt like you needed to do the talk on talents for people to use in the church, and you just explained that you just felt like you didn't want to do it, but you had to get up here and just have that. And it was beautiful, and it was really awesome. And then it just dovetailed so perfectly into the next one that we had, which then for the next Sunday after that, or I think it was Ed Jamel. And he was here talking about, actually I have my book. I highlighted some stuff. Seriously, I could do a whole talk just on my notes for Ed Jamel's talk. And then he says, many are called, but few are chosen. So how many times have you just felt that call, but you didn't answer the phone? But then it rang again, and you heard the call, and maybe you answered the phone, and then kind of wrong number. And then they called again, and then, it's somehow, some way, with the message that Spirit finds its way through the ones that are called. But I guess we choose ourselves. We choose, we have that free will, and we choose whether or not we want to answer. And he said that co-creation is higher consciousness than individual creation. And so that's what we're doing here. And he called that's unity. That was the golden thread, the thread of unity. And love is a characteristic of the creative force of God. So when love is like that expansive space, that all-inclusive, the unity, the oneness, the co-creation, and that's a higher consciousness. So when we come to this little church and we have all of this wonderful flurry of exciting ideas and modalities and things that people are into and books that they're reading and all of these connections, which are really, really awesome. It's also really all over the place. And everything is kind of this person's level of consciousness at that time, and they're attracted to this, but I may not really find that very interesting, or something I might be really, really interested in. Somebody else may be like, meh. And I'm like, I love it. And they're like, meh. It's kind of weird. So, and then backing up a little bit, Patty and I ended up through a series of conversations and just little breadcrumbs and little things clicking along. We ended up one Friday talking with Kira, and Charlotte was on the phone with us, and Kira is the Bay Area Unity leader, and she she gave us this little book, the 5 Principles. She gave me and Patty a copy, and each a copy. And so her suggestion for us, because we were like, we would really love to have something to kind of, we don't have a unity minister, but we would really love to have something to kind of anchor unity principles and unity thought to, that is something we can all kind of be on the same page with. And we all have the fun things that we like to do, and if it's fun, it's sustainable, and it's bringing community, that's awesome, and we're able to serve our community. But when we don't have a guest speaker, or when we don't have a message of somebody, a special message, and we don't have something or someone to do a specific talk, a unity talk, then we would like to just start relying maybe for now on the 5 principles. Just kind of do a book review, a book study, a book report. So this is my first book report. The 5 unity principles. And so this is the book, the 5 unity principles, and I'll just read the back of the little bitty blurb on the back, kind of give you an idea of how it came to be. The 5 principles constitute core teachings of the Unity spiritual movement founded in 1889 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. These same principles reflect the laws of the universe that apply to everyone all the time. They show up in every major religion and are all reflected in the teachings of Jesus Christ. The author encourages every reader to work these principles, test them, apply them to your life, and watch what happens. So that was really awesome. Can have this. And so I went through just the introduction, and I just underlined the things that kind of popped out to me. And so the idea is, if we maybe have a few people reading along, or reading parts of this book, maybe we can have lots of little book reports up here, and that can be our kind of our default. When we don't have a speaker, we have discussion of the unity principles or unity principles. So a principle is a rule or law that never changes. So that's great, because that's so reliable, and it is always kind of related to, in our tangible world, the law of gravity. So we know that if we just roll out of bed and we don't put a foot down, we will fall onto the floor. So we get to really experience the law of gravity. And if we don't know about the law of gravity and we just don't obey it, then we'll be a little bit bumbly in this world because we're not paying attention to the law of gravity. So it applies to all people everywhere all the time. And the principle is not even aware of you. Well, gravity is not aware of me, and the principles are not aware of me. That makes sense. And spiritual principles work the same way. So they are laws of the universe. And it's like mathematical principles. We can ignore them and continually get answers that don't work for us. And suppose you didn't understand the law of gravity. That was, it wouldn't be working out really well. And so people say often, am I being punished? Have I displeased God in some way? Maybe I should pray harder. Maybe I should have more faith. But the principles work no matter where we are with our relationship with God and in Christ. And so they're really reliable. And so when we come here in this space and we've been out in the world, we can come back and kind of anchor back into these principles and fill back up and go back into the world and be anchored into truth and to our principles. So they don't limit us, but they give us parameters within which to work. And they are constant. And they are unchanging, they are impersonal, and they work with or without our understanding. They hold no opinion of our behavior, and what a relief. And it would, to understand, what a relief. So the Unity movement claims no corner on spiritual truth. Like mathematics, like mathematicians, spiritual students learned by trial and error through experiment and research. These laws work the same way every time for everyone. So I love that through trial and error that they work. That means we, instead of just, coming to church and then going out in the world and not applying it, that's kind of the safe way to live. I don't know, kind of safe. You don't have to really think. You just go in the world and not try and error. But I love to go out and try and error and fall down and get back up and get better and do all these things. So this reminded me of this verse. And I love this verse. Now, this is from the Bible. It says, "You need milk, not solid food, for everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. But solid food is for the mature, those who have power of discernment, trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil." I just love the words. So first of all, I was always somebody who kind of got triggered with any biblical Bible base, anything like that. I was like, it just kind of triggered me a little bit. But I've learned to kind of let it speak to me and just let the words that need to pop out to me, and let those be the focus. So powers of discernment, constant practice to distinguish, like what's mine and what's not mine, what's mine to do, what's not mine to do, and to always be able to kind of come back to the center. So that gives me permission in my mind, in my own way, to think, to ask questions, to not just take things at face value, to not always just take a Bible verse and that's the what it says, and so that is exactly what it means. I love having permission and community to be able to reflect on things and to talk to other people about things that I may be having a question with. And a lot of times, over a period of time, I do come full circle back to the thing, and I can see it that way. But it takes me having, I guess I'm stubborn. No heckling. I have to come to it from my own way. Like I have to receive it in my own way. I can't just take it and like just check that off. Okay, that's the way that works. I have to be the one that falls out of the bed 5 times before I figured out that there's a thing called gravity, and you should, observe that. So, there's a Connie Fillmore she was the one who actually wrote originally the 5 principles, and she was asked to just write a summary for the Daily Word magazine. The Daily Word, And it just was so popular that the 5 principles were kind of incorporated into Unity teachings. And so when you're new to Unity, you're kind of given the 5 principles, and it's easy. It's concise. I'm going to say it's concise. They're simple and they're concise. And so they've caught on and now used in most churches. They are handed to visitors and new members as a short explanation of the Unity teachings. They are the basis of sermons, classes, debate, and discussion. And Connie was a little surprised at their longevity. So the author of this book, Ellen Davenport, she says that she has come to believe that Connie was divinely inspired the day she wrote these 5 statements of principles. Had she been asked to sum up all of Unity teachings that were going to be handed to everybody who ever walked in the door, and so many sermons were going to be based on her article, would she have done it? Like, had she had all that weight on her, would she have done that? Could she have done that? But she was just asked to write an article. She could write an article, but God had other purposes for that. So I love that, how she was able to do this little thing. It was big, but it was little. It was a little thing, but it grew into this. And it says, in recent decades, books and seminar leaders cite principles of prosperity, love, health, business, but the 5 principles comprise them all, and they can be applied to any situation. So don't be distracted by the specific language. I love that too, because the specific language and maybe a Bible verse can kind of throw me off a little bit. But it says, don't be distracted by the specific language, and pay attention to the essence of the teaching. So I'm like, yeah, that's that discernment piece. And you get to think about it. I love that. So many of us are still aren't sure why we're here on earth, or what kind of relationship is possible between us and the presence. And we learn the secrets of life as we go, growing through our failures and our successes. And gravity holds us to the earth. Its spiritual laws are in effect for everyone, working all the time with no favorites and no changes. So that was the introduction, and just a quick little, in the table of contents, it sums up each of them. So principle 1, God is all. Principle 2, you are God. So we are made in the image and likeness of God. 3 is co-creating with God. Principle 4 is communion with God. And principle 5 is expressing God. So I look forward to hearing other people's takes on these different principles. I mean, we could probably each of us do principle 1 and have a totally different perspective. And then a week later, we've all grown and changed so much, we could have a whole nother different perspective. So, I mean, we could cover this for probably 5 years. So that is our principles. That was our first principles. And I love these Bible verses too. It says, with God, all things are possible. So all things are possible. That's Matthew 19:26. And I also love, ask and it will be given unto you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. And that's Matthew 7:7. So that is the introduction of talking about what we're going to talk about. So. How did you find this one?
Mm-hmm.
This one, came from Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
Well, I found them on Barnes and Noble. I think they can be.
Order them through Unity?
You can probably order them through Unity, I imagine. It says unitybooks.org.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can order it.
Yeah.
I had a gift certificate to Barnes and Noble, and I did order some extra, the 5 principles for the church. If anybody wants to work on this little project with us on reading some and doing some book reports for us with us up here. So if y'all want to stick around, we'll have a vision meeting after this.